Drug lords have existed for several years, and it doesn't look like this violent profession will end anytime soon. The discussion on the drug smuggling trade is incomplete without talking about El Chapo, the Mexican drug lord that terrorized the world for years. He led the most vicious drug cartel in history, the Sinaloa cartel, and was finally arrested in 2016 after several arrests and successful escapes. El Chapo's story may be over, but he inspired several generations of drug lords that are still active today. These drug lords have been more successful in evading arrests and continue to fill the streets with dangerous drugs. Today's video is all about 6 of the most intelligent drug lords in the world who are still active today. You may know a few, but you'll love to know who's at the top of the list. Number 6. Kenny Jung Chen. One thing Kenny has mastered the art of doing, apart from selling heroin, is staying hidden. While several drug lords have their names and pictures splashed all over the internet, even one of the greatest search engines can't pull up something substantial on the man. Kenny Jung Chen is a criminal through and through, and one that has gotten away with some of the craziest crimes on humanity. So far, he's been pretty sleek and has not given the authorities any chance to capture him. Kenny is wanted for his high-profile involvement in distributing heroin across various countries, but that's not all. He's also involved in the despicable act of using minors for his illegal heroin distribution. The drug lord Kenny Jung Chen has no limits and will do whatever it takes to make illicit money without getting caught. Number 5. El Mencho. Although his real name is Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, this man who has lived a long life of crime without getting repercussions for his action so far is known as El Mencho. This dangerous man is the head of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, a group that has made itself the nemesis of the Mexican and United States governments. It's so terrible that the United States government currently have a bounty offer on his head for more than $10 million, which can be claimed by anyone with details that can lead to his eventual capture. His story started in Mexico before he illegally made his way into the United States. Eventually, El Mencho was discovered and deported back to his country, where he began working with the Milenio cartel. El Mencho finally made it to the top and founded his cartel through his violent killings and dedication to the drug trade, aided by the arrest or death of his bosses. So far, only a few drug lords are more violent than this man, and he spares no one, including Mexican security forces and rival cartels. The latest information on his location suggests that he's living in Mexico, surrounded by mercenaries, where he's still active in the drug trade. Number 4. Romel Cipriano. Currently about 29 years old, Romel Cipriano is a member of the terrible Sinaloa cartel, and words can't describe just how deadly this cartel is. One of the biggest Mexican drug lords in the world, El Chapo, was a member of the vicious drug cartel that proved itself more powerful than even the Mexico forces. After the Mexican authorities arrested El Chapo's son in 2019, the cartel launched a massive show of force as they wreaked havoc on anything and everything in their path. The Mexican government realized they couldn't keep up with this fight and released El Chapo's son. However, it doesn't look like they will accept defeat that easily with Cipriano, especially with the FBI involved in smoking him out. This extremely dangerous man was last seen in California and is responsible for the death of thousands of people in Mexico. So far, he has managed to stay out of the public eye while continuing his drug trade. Number 3. Rafael Quintero. Old habits die hard, and one of the biggest proofs of that is Rafael Quintero. One would think that after spending some time behind bars, this would be enough to return to a life without crime. However, this was not the case with one of the most notorious drug lords in the world. After he was captured and released, Rafael returned to being one of the most wanted criminals in the world. His criminal days go as far back as the early 70s, when he formed the notorious Guadalajara cartel for smuggling marijuana through the United States. However, he took it a step further with the murder of a DEA agent, which is quite strange for cartels as they usually don't attack federal forces. This was also not the only murder to his name, as he was responsible for the death of an American writer. Eventually he slipped up, leading to his capture in Costa Rica. After his trial in Mexico, he was sentenced to a whopping 40 years in prison, which seemed like the perfect punishment. Surprisingly, he was released after spending just 28 days, but the United States wasn't satisfied with this decision by the Mexican government. Once again, Rafael's name was back on the FBI's most wanted list, but he hasn't been captured yet. Anyone with information on his whereabouts will earn a cool $20 million. Number 2. Yulan Adonai Archaga Karias. Yulan is reportedly the leader of the violent MS-13 transnational criminal organization in Honduras. You know you would have racked up many criminal points to make it up to the top 10 on the FBI's most wanted fugitives list. If you have any idea where this mysterious drug lord is at the moment, or information that could lead to his arrest, you'll get rewarded with as much as $100,000 by the FBI. That's how much he has stepped on the wrong toes. Yulan is also known as Alexander Mendoza, and his crimes in the Southern District of New York include possession of machine guns, racketeering, conspiracy, and the big one, importation of cocaine. Although he's wanted for several crimes, one of the major reasons the authorities are on his tail is for facilitating the transportation of several tons of cocaine from Honduras to the United States. That makes him responsible for a huge chunk of cocaine littering the streets of the United States, especially in New York. He's also involved in the conspiracy to possess machine guns, as his gang members use these weapons to facilitate their international drug trafficking network. Although it's not surprising for someone involved in such a violent trade, it's worth mentioning that Yulan has his hands stained with the blood of several rival gang members. He's responsible for ordering and sometimes participating in these murders. However, it looked like he would finally pay for his crimes when he was convicted by a Honduran tribunal in August 2018. Alexander Mendoza was sentenced to a very long time in prison, but violently escaped custody less than 2 years later. In February 2020, about 20 armed men in police uniforms attacked the courthouse during a hearing for Yulan and helped him escape. Several Honduran police officers lost their lives in the shootout, and Yulan is still out there, possibly hiding in Honduras. Number 1. Ismael Zambada. So far we've talked about drug lords, younger drug lords, but Ismael Zambada stands out as one of the oldest drug lords that have ever succeeded in evading the long arms of the law. He may be old school, but it looks like it's working perfectly for him, as he is still out of reach and leading the Sinaloa cartel even in his 70s. He's known as El Mayo. The drug lord actually started as a farmer and got enticed by the fast money that illegal drug trading represented. He started out with small amounts of drugs before moving to become a big-time smuggler. After the death of Gallardo, who stands out as one of the earliest drug lords, his faction split, leading to El Mayo's rise and the creation of the brutal Sinaloa cartel. Luckily for the drug lord, his cartel survived the war on drugs in 2006, but his rivals, the Tijuana cartel, weren't so lucky. They crumbled under the full force of the Mexican government, and this made the Sinaloa cartel the undisputed drug lords at the time. As they grew and became engaged in the Mexican drug war, the misery and death in Mexico increased over that period. Interestingly, El Mayo has been on Mexico's wanted list since 1998 and has always managed to evade arrest. He was the one that took over the Sinaloa cartel after El Chapo's arrest and forced the government to release El Chapo's son. That's a glimpse of how evil the man is. It's not news that the movie industry has glamorized some of these drug lords with stories that give an insight into the brutal lives. Which drug lord series do you think highlights the lives of these criminals perfectly? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to give it a like and check out more awesome ones on our channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.